especially with Gen Z, kind of really having a greater desire to learn from the older generation rather than having like a victim's mentality of like, oh man, they just don't get me, or you know, thinking that everything that we have as the younger generation is so much better, or even thinking that we have to reinvent the wheel. That's why I even love the idea of passing the baton. It's continuing a work that has already been like people have laid the foundation for us to continue to build upon.
Welcome back. If you're coming back or if this is your first time, welcome to the show. We hope that you are excited to tune in with us and that you go back and watch all of our other content.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, please do. But let's get into this one.
Absolutely.
So before we sit down with our guests, I just have a question of the day for you.
Ooh, all right, I'm ready for it. I think.
Oh, it's about books.
I'm not ready for it. Next. Sorry.
It's your least
Go
favorite
ahead.
subject.
Books.
I'm an avid reader. I
have a
love
question.
Okay.
A follow-up question once you ask your question. Be ready.
You had a goal this year.
I
I'm
did.
not roasting you by any means.
She is.
I'm
She's
not
roasting.
intending to. But you had a goal this year of reading a book a month, which is a really healthy goal, I feel like.
Let's go ahead. Keep going.
But hold on. Let's just preface that it's with like leadership books, like self-help books, like that kind of stuff. It's not fiction books.
I don't
You were
read
like
fiction.
committed. And at the time that we're filming this, it is July.
Yep, the beginning of July.
And how many books have you read this year?
One.
I am proud, but I'm okay.
One book.
Yeah, you've read one.
One.
But I'm really proud of you because you finished one.
Small baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been together 13 years.
Yep.
And I think this is I can count on one hand how many books he's finished.
It's two hands.
Okay, will digress. What's your question?
Okay, so you love books, obviously.
I do.
You probably read 1 to 2 books a week. Say books no longer existed.
Oh my gosh, what a devastating world.
Oh my gosh. It's like the apocalypse.
You wouldn't want to be
No,
married
listen.
to me.
You could
Like, I'd be
you could
so
only
boring.
choose between watching TV series or movies. Which one would you pick?
I could only choose between watching TV series or movies?
Yep.
What does that have to do with books?
Well, I don't do books, so
Oh my gosh. Okay.
if you can only choose one,
That's so hard. Movies, like, you know how it ends within an hour and a half to 3 hours. TV series, you have to binge hours and hours of content. And sometimes they don't even end it or end it the way you like.
this is all you can watch.
Or
though.
end it on multiple
This
platforms.
is the only
That's
way
really
that
annoying.
you can consume content for the rest of your life.
TV series.
TV series.
Hands down, TV
Okay.
series. What about you? I feel like you'd pick movies.
You know, a few years ago, yes. I feel like I've adapted. I love movies, but
Yeah.
I feel like you forced me to be more involved in TV shows.
I watch, yeah.
We don't
I
ever have time to go to the movies.
No, and
So-
I watch Netflix to fall asleep.
Yes.
It's a really bad habit. If you do that, you should not do that. Hey, Ashley, don't do that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let us know.
Yeah.
TV series,
Or movies.
movies,
Or
or books.
What's your favorite way to
Yeah.
consume content?
Yeah.
Mine is definitely reading it. Because movies never justify or do a good enough job
Sure.
when it comes to recreating a book.
All right.
Just saying. Yeah. Well, let's get into this conversation with our friends Gary and Eliot.
Yes. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Firebrand Show. We have some amazing guests joining us today, and we just want to introduce you to them. So without further ado, we have Gary Garcia and a former guest, Eliot Boyd
Yep.
Bland.
Yeah.
Yep. He has a
Yes.
mustache this time, though.
Yeah.
You might look a little different.
You look your age now.
That's the only reason I had to come back with the mustache, you know?
Yes. So
Yeah.
just give us like 1 minute who you are, what you're about, all those kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm Elliot Bland, Youth Alive Director for Southern California Student Ministries. Been in youth ministry for coming up on 10 years now.
Oh my gosh.
Which
Yes.
is pretty
That's
exciting.
wild. When
Yeah.
you say that, you sound like, it makes you sound so official.
I
Well,
know.
Gary,
Yeah,
your
I'll sound
resume,
less
though.
official in
I
a
know.
second, but
Yep.
So I am the Executive Youth Director for Southern California Assemblies of God, and I also lead a church in Southern California called Cornerstone, and this is year 33 in youth ministry.
Yep.
When you've been in youth ministry, like,
He didn't
as
say
long as
he's
Jesus
33
lived,
years
like,
old.
that's,
Yeah.
This is year
He's
33
been
in
in year
ministry.
33 in ministry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some
which
might
is
mistake
wild.
you for 33 years old.
No,
Yeah,
I don't know
seriously.
anybody.
When I first met you, I definitely would have put you in your like early 40s.
That's kind.
Yeah. And that's not me like, you know, trying to gain some points here.
take early
It's
40s.
like I truly thought it. I didn't know that you were a lead pastor.
Yeah.
Like when I first met you, I was like, nah, he's still in youth.
I'm a grandpa.
I know you
Exactly.
are. Yeah. Like that's so weird to me. I'm like, dang. But yeah, it's perfect to have you guys on for this conversation. We want to talk about legacy and passing the baton. And you guys are not only co-laborers in youth ministry together, you guys are best friends, and there's a clear ministry age gap between the two of you. But it's legacy, right? Like it's what you guys are doing, what you're living out, and not even just from Gary to Elliot, but even just from the two of you into the next generation. So we just want to talk about passing the baton.
Yeah.
For this conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So just kind of start off. I mean, you guys can decide who goes first, but and when you think of legacy, what do you think of for you specifically?
I mean, for me, I think of legacy. I think of two things. I think of obviously ministry and what my legacy in ministry will look like, and you know, not just while I'm here, but when I'm gone, and also legacy just with my family. You know, my kids, my wife, and you know, grandkids, and all of that. So for me, when I think of legacy, I almost have two versions of it: the ministry version and my life version. So
Yeah.
I love that.
No, that's what I was gonna say. No, I think
You've passed the baton well. Good job.
yeah, obviously. That's why am I even on with Gary? Because like my last episode, I just took all the things he said to me or things I've learned.
Now you gotta come up with your
said
own
it
content.
as if it was mine. Yeah. No, I think Terry Parkman. I saw a post of his or a quote where he was talking about wanting to be the guy who, if he's asked to speak at an event or a camp or a youth night, that students remember the encounter that they had with Jesus, and they remember him as just that one guy at that one event.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think that's really, he articulated something that I felt
Yeah.
as I get opportunity to be with different youth ministries now in the role that I'm in, that there would be an encounter or a revelation that a student has with Jesus that changes everything for them. Because I think all of us have had those moments,
Yeah.
whether it be in the youth ministries we grew up at, or at a camp or a conference or something along those lines. We can't even necessarily remember the name of the message or even necessarily like the passage that was spoke out of, but the encounter that we
Yeah.
had that produced transformation. And so I think when I think of legacy, I think of all of that. I also just think of my youth pastor, who wasn't like the coolest, trendiest guy, didn't preach the best messages I ever heard, but he loved me and he poured into me and he was consistent.
Yeah.
And I am who I am today because of him. And so I think it's important to remember that in youth ministry as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think when you think when we think of legacy, right? Like we think of all of those things, but we get so tunnel visioned on our own life. And I think too, like everyone can say this, it doesn't matter your age. Like we just get sometimes so tunnel vision, so focused on the here and the now that we don't think about the future.
Yeah.
Or maybe we think about it in the context of the very next thing. So the very next thing being like for a teenager, I'm graduating, or I'm going to go to college, or I'm going to get a job, right? But they don't think long term. And so like we're talking to Gen Z, we're talking to teenagers in this conversation of passing the baton and what that looks like. And so when you are talking to teenagers about this, how do you get them to understand like focusing on legacy at such a young age is just as vital as it is when you're in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s?
Yeah, I think so. It's so hard for teenagers to see past really college. You know, I mean, a lot of them, when you ask them what's next, they instantly just think of college and what that looks like. And man, you know, we did this, I think last year at Youth Convention. We brought in a bunch of our older lead pastors and had them all come into the room. We launched Youth Convention with kind of this passing the baton moment. And our goal in that was to really help teenagers see like where you're at right now. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Like there is so much more ahead of you spiritually and what God has for you. And just the idea was for them to see these lead pastors, to see this generation that had come before them, and they worship, they love the Lord. They may not like the same worship, they may not listen to the same music, and they may do things a little bit differently. But what you're doing now, the future is so much bigger than you think, as far as especially your walk with God and what God's going to do in your life. And it's easy for them to just kind of put everything in this little box of I'm a teenager, I'm a teenager, I'm a teenager, that they don't realize all that God has in store for them. So helping them begin to realize what you do now, you know, there's so much more to come. But also, I think it's important, and sorry if I'm jumping the gun here, but helping them realize that things you do now can impact your legacy later on. And they don't always see that.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, we were there for that moment, and we still have the gold baton, and it sits on our desk, and we see it every morning, like, or on our bookshelf. We can see it every morning when we wake up. It's the first thing, one of the first things we see. And it is such that reminder of, like, yes, we are passing the baton. We're currently in that season, like, we're youth pastors, so we're raising up the next generation. But we even, like, look at it as a moment to pray for our students to get the same passion and desire. Like, be so forward thinking, be so, like, not just in the here and now, not just in the next thing, but like those everyday decisions that you make impact later. And so when you see that gold baton, you're thinking more futuristic. You're not thinking in like the very next thing. And I think that's such a good, that's so good.
Yeah. The next thing I'm going to go to, you have your Bible open. If you want to read it for me, it's John 14:12. And this is Jesus talking to his disciples. So go ahead and read it. You have it?
Yep. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I do. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these he will do, because I am going to the Father.
Yeah. So just the idea, like, Jesus set the example for us. He kind of laid the foundation, and his legacy, he tells us that we're going to do greater things than he did. He kind of sets us up by, you know, dying on the cross, resurrecting, and then sending the Holy Spirit on his behalf to allow us to set us up for, you know, a greater life. And so how do we implement that, and how do students implement that into their lives, and thinking so forward that they're setting themselves up and those, like, their children and the people behind them up for success, and keeping that in the not the forefront of their mind, but as a thought, and as they get older and realize the impact that their decisions can have on their life.
I think like with this whole conversation of legacy, I think there's an important piece of it's a tension we have to hold of calling, and like that we're called to something great, but that ultimately this humility and this dying to ourselves, this reality check, I guess, of like we're not the main character of this movie that we're living. And I think when you hold the tension of those two things well, that like there is greatness that we're called to, and that there is things that God wants to use us to do, but at the same time, God is so great. Like it's not like, oh, he can't do this without me. I get to be a part of what he's doing, I guess, is sort of the understanding of all of that. And even, especially with Gen Z, kind of really having a greater desire to learn from the older generation rather than having like a victim's mentality of like, oh man, they just don't get me, or, you know, thinking that everything that we have as the younger generation is so much better, or even thinking that we have to reinvent the wheel. That's why I even love the idea of passing the baton. It's continuing a work that has already been like people have laid the foundation for us to continue to build upon. And so I think there's this, like, the simplicity of it is just you step out and you're obedient to the call, because the only reason we can do greater is not because of our own strength, but because this Holy Spirit is going to empower us to do these works. And even in the times that we're living in, like, there's hope in how dark it is, because the light shines the brightest in darkness. And so it's that idea as well, is like, is you just walk in obedience and you learn from the people who have gone before you, continue to build on what they've laid the foundation for.
Yeah, such a big part of that. And you know, I know we're talking about passing the baton, but really for this next generation, it's not so much for their part in this is receiving the baton.
Yep, absolutely.
And
good transition there, Gary.
Can they do that well? Can they receive the baton well? I mean, so much, if you're talking about a race, so much is built on the passing of the baton. So much can go wrong in that. And so I think it's so important for the older generation to pass it well, but it's just as important for the next generation to receive it well. And so really helping students understand one day they'll pass the baton, but before that, receive it well.
Yeah.
And what Elliot was saying, just learn from the generation before you and take that and then run with it. God's going to open up doors you never dreamed of. You're going to be able to do things that you never thought you would do. I just think of myself in the past, my lifetime of doing ministry and I've done things that I never dreamed of. If you would have asked me at 17, 15, 16, 17 about some of the things that I've been able to be a part of and experience and happen in my life, I would have never dreamed God would open those doors for you. It wasn't on my radar. And so that's why it's so important that they understand legacy is not just in the here and now. It's so far out as well.
Yeah.
Things you'll never dream that God can do for you.
That's so good.
I just wanted to add to that because it made me think, I think something we need to do a better job of in this whole idea of, I don't know what that's called. I wasn't in running. I was in wrestling, and I wasn't good at that either. But that zone, you know, like the passing zone.
The passing zone.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know. That's
I'm
what
a
we're
genius.
gonna call it that. Yeah.
It's called the passing zone. I think of like us as the ones passing the baton, the younger generation receiving the baton, like defining legacy and like defining even like measuring success.
Yeah.
I think better, because I think something that maybe we've not done the best job of, and maybe we're correcting, is putting on pedestals this idea of like influence. And again, so I just speak from experience of like, as a youth pastor, I found myself feeling like I was on the verge of giving up because of things in my youth ministry. I wasn't hitting the metrics of success that I wanted. And I was ready to throw in the towel. And I found myself remembering my youth pastor who changed my life, who didn't hit any of the metrics of success that I was trying to hit in my own life, but he changed my life.
Yep.
And I think that that unseen legacy is really the example that we're given, but not necessarily what we put at the forefront for the next generation. And I think that there's a lot of people who aren't called to platforms or stages, and that isn't the idea of like how you have a legacy. It's like being consistent and showing up in people's lives and never getting credit for what you've done, and like that can change people's lives more than being viral or getting to be on all the platforms.
That's true.
That's so good. Yeah, you segued into what I was going to kind of bring it to another angle of, is just that, like, the success of legacy is so different. Like, the world measures it on certain metrics, right? And then you've got like your church metrics, and you have your non-church metrics, and non-church metrics being career and money and success in that way. And even now the church one is starting to focus that direction too, like it really is. And so you just hit that. Like, I hope that encourages a youth pastor that is watching or listening, because I think we all need to be reminded of that. Like, it's the simplicity of just showing up in the day-to-day to your kids, the youth students' lives. That's the legacy you're leaving.
100%.
Like, when you move on to whatever God calls you to do, though, that's going to matter way more than how many followers you left with.
For sure. Think
It ain't
about the
about you
person
anyway.
who impacted Billy Graham. I mean, like, I can't name, you know Billy Graham, but who was the person that like poured into his life or spoke to him? And so I just think of that. Like, I'm so grateful. Like, my youth pastor helped to change my life. He was my wife's youth pastor as well. Like, we are who we are today because of him. And he was just consistent, and he showed up and he cared about us, and he did stuff that wasn't flashy, but like it made a difference in our life. It's discipleship, really.
Absolutely.
Well, you think in a race, like a race where there'd be a baton, there's usually 4 people, and everyone wants to be the starter that gets it going, or they want to finish it and win the race. No one really thinks of the second and third runner, but you don't win without the second and third runner. You don't finish that race without the second and third runner. And so when it comes to ministry, when it comes to legacy, all of these things, there are going to be people that are out in front. There are going to be people that are going to be on the stage. There are going to be people that have youth groups of 1,000 kids. But there's going to be that consistent youth pastor that has a group of 30 and just finishes well. And because of that, because he finishes well, because he runs the race well, you're going to see that in the students that come out of their youth ministry and the legacy that they carry on. Again, it wasn't because he was at some mega church, but he was at a youth group. With Eliot, he was at a youth group with a youth pastor that loved him, cared about him, wasn't the most dynamic guy, but just loved the students that God blessed him with and honored that.
Yeah, that's so good. You had said receiving the baton well, and I kind of want to end with this, get a question out there. What does it look like to receive the baton well? What can the next generation, what can teenagers do now to set themselves up to receive the baton well. First thing that comes to mind is the discipleship. Who is discipling you?
Yeah.
And be so protective of that. Like, don't let culture disciple you. Like, if you're being discipled by TikTok or Instagram, or you're being discipled by a pastor that you're following online, then you don't have a pastor in real life. Like, goodness gracious, you know?
I can even add a thought too before you guys kind of jump in. You know, as the generations progress, the accessibility for things, being able to achieve certain things, being able to access certain things, has gotten so much faster. And I notice, and I feel like this generation has lost the idea of, we've talked about this before, but long suffering.
Yeah.
Walking through things and not feeling like you have to get to the end point right away.
Yeah.
And so, like Gary just mentioned, that second and third runner, being consistent through it all, and not looking for that instant gratification.
100%.
Which happens, and I would say, like Elliot knows, like for me, discipleship and youth ministry is one of my soapboxes right now, because I feel like for decades we got that wrong. You know, my generation of youth pastors in the 90s, especially early 2000s, we got so caught up in everything else, this new social media stuff, all the staging and culture and all these things that we do now, which a lot of it's important, but we lost the art of discipleship. And if I can tell any student, any youth pastor, learn the art of discipleship, learn what it is to be a follower of Christ, understand what that means. And you know, and again, with the long suffering, I think so many times we have this idea, and I've been talking a lot about this lately, of the idea that Jesus, can you just get me out of this situation, instead of Jesus, meet me in this situation. And if students can understand that, understand, you know, the journey, understand the discipleship part, understand what it is to follow Jesus, not just have Jesus rescue you, but be a follower of Jesus. Man, it could change the game for everybody.
I was just going to answer that question with two words. I think humility and honor is, especially for the students receiving the baton. I think of the verses talking about don't go and sit at the head of the table and then have to be told that that's not where you're supposed to sit. Like, I think there's a lot of people who want batons that they're not ready for at the moment. And I think if you have a posture of, I'm ready, God, for whatever you want me to do, but I'm going to just walk in obedience. I'm not going to make a way for myself. I'm going to just follow what you're doing. I think that's the best posture that the next generation could have when it comes to receiving the baton, is humility and honor. And I think it'll be a smoother handoff than if they're trying to yank batons out of the hands of those who are coming before them.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for this conversation. And just thank you for the long race. Like, thank you for being in the race for the long run, and for just pouring into the next generation and pouring into the next generation of pastors and leaders. Like, we're in the fruit of that right now. Like, we're with you guys. And so just thank you. Like, it's not easy to say you want to be in youth ministry forever and actually do it. So thank you for saying it and doing it. You know?
Thanks for letting us be on an episode together. That's like
dream
scenario.
Dream for
we
you
just
guys.
Want to do all of this stuff
you got
together,
it. Maybe we'll just give you a whole season one of these years.
There you go.
All right. So last thing, if anyone wants to like kind of connect with you or see what you're doing in your ministry life, where can they follow you or find you?
Yeah, my P.O. box is just on Instagram. Like, we're just normal people, you know.
Instagram, our personal Instagrams, but also SoCal Students is a good one.
SoCal Students, that's right. SoCal, right there, exactly. Yeah, Billy wears SoCal Student merch all the time. You know, it's an easy plug every time. It's great. So thanks, guys.
All right, such a great conversation with our friends Gary and Eliot. We love having them on, so much so that we've had them on multiple times now.
We have multiple times, both of them. I think they have they'll have like a little tally going on who comes on our show more.
Yeah, right now Eliot is winning.
Eliot is definitely winning. Yeah.
But we're gonna have a little bit of fun now to end our episode. So we're gonna play a little game called Chain Link.
Okay.
You've probably seen it. Very fun. Ashley's gonna go first, and I've already created the chain link for her. She has the first and last word, as you can see, and she is trying to connect them.
So wide is the first word.
Yep.
The next word is 4 letters. Wide open.
Correct.
Ding, ding, ding.
Wide open.
She got it. You have a lot of S words. This is bad.
You can go from the bottom up, too. If that helps.
Okay, I'm going to do... No. Wide open...
If you need help, you can ask
Summer?
for a letter. Wrong.
Wide...
Okay, so since you guessed wrong, I'll give you the next letter.
Oh, okay.
E.
Doesn't help. Wide open.
Don't worry about wide.
Okay,
Just
so
open.
open season.
No.
I was really confident. You just crushed my
S.
dreams. Why? I did say an S word.
No, it's the next letter.
Oh, the next letter. Okay. Wide.
No,
open.
stop saying wide.
Sorry. Can you stop being so annoyed? Let me play my game.
Stop it.
Open session.
No. A.
Open sesame.
Yes, there
My
you
gosh,
go.
how many of you already figured that out? Welcome to my brain. Okay, Sesame Street.
Wow.
Did I get it?
Right away.
Well, that was pretty obvious. I don't know anything. Seed, but it's the amount of spaces I have.
Okay.
Street store.
No. M.
Street smell.
No. A.
Street smart.
Street smart.
That I am not. Smart cookie. And then cookie cutter.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay, I actually did pretty good.
You did well.
Okay, well, I guess this is our chance. I can let you go now.
All right, so first word is Chipotle. C.
This isn't so easy when you're on that side of the chair, is
Cracker.
it? No.
Crackers.
No. So your next letter is H.
I don't know. Hold on. You didn't give me the last word. What is it?
It's open. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
All right, your next letter after CH
Yeah,
is CHI.
Is it Chipotle?
No, it's not, but that's hilarious. So no, the next one is C.
Chipotle chicken?
Yes! Ding ding. Wow.
All right.
You couldn't get that?
No. Chicken dinner? No.
No.
It's less. Chicken.
It's hard.
You picked a hard one.
I did not pick a hard one.
Okay.
The next letter is A.
That doesn't help.
Yes, it should.
No. It doesn't.
Your next letter is N.
Chicken dance. Okay.
I think I did better
Dance,
than you.
dance.
Nope. I.
And D-I. What is that?
D-I-S.
I'm blanking.
C.
Dance disco?
Yes. Oh my, am I better at this game than you?
These don't make sense.
You guys have no idea how big of a deal this is. You have
How does-
absolutely no idea. What do you mean?
This doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does.
All right.
Keep going. You
Disco
just don't
ball.
like losing.
That makes sense.
Ball. There you
Disco
go.
ball. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Ball. Kick.
Yes. You kick a ball.
This should be opposite then. Kick ball. Not ball kick.
You kick a ball.
No.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go the other way. S for kick. Because yours are backwards.
That one does make sense. Like 6 to 7 makes sense. Okay. You need help? Ding, ding,
Yes.
ding. I will give you T.
Store.
I will give you A.
Stack.
I will give you R.
Start.
Kickstart.
Start open.
Yes. In order to start something, you have to open it like a
This list doesn't make sense. Where did you get this from?
TikTok. Where do you think I got it from? I can't come up with these on myself.
Mine made sense.
Okay, first of all, here, hand me the paper.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
this totally made sense. Chipotle has chicken. Chipotle
No.
chicken.
There shouldn't be words that has to combine them.
Shh. Chicken dance.
That one's okay. I'll give you that one.
Dance, that's a disco.
No.
Disco ball.
Yes.
With a ball, you kick it.
No.
Oh my god.
You're putting all these words between it.
This is so rough. Anyway, guys, I won. That's
Listen.
that's the whole point of this moment.
No, there's an asterisk right there.
It is so hard to beat you at anything. Can you just like give me this? I'll put
set
it
me
out
up
there
for
on national
failure.
television, international TV that you.
Failure. You
I
set
will
me
put
up.
it out on international TV that
You
I
set
beat you at
me
something, but
up.
it is with an asterisk.
You set me up.
Can you just do that for me? Whatever. It's fine. Guys, we will see you in our next episode where we probably will have another arguing segment. It's fine. It's just
Yeah.
the competitiveness of who we are. But we do love each other.
Yep.
We do. So we'll see you guys in our next episode.